There is a place on Earth where the sky feels closer than anywhere else, where silence isn't empty but alive, where the wind carries something you can't quite explain. A land often called the roof of the world, yet no name fully captures what it truly feels like to be there. Because Tibet is not just a place you visit, it's a place that quietly changes the way you see everything. To understand Tibet, you begin with the land. Vast, open, and almost endless, the Tibetan Plateau stretches across Asia like a world above the world, with an average elevation of more than 4,500 meters. At this height, the air holds around 40% less oxygen than at sea level, making even simple movement feel different. The sunlight is stronger, the shadows sharper, and the horizon feels wider than anywhere else. It is a landscape that does not just surround you, it confronts you, reminding you with every breath that you are somewhere rare. This plateau is not just high, it is immense. Often called the third pole, it holds the largest amount of ice outside the Arctic and Antarctic. Thousands of glaciers rest across its surface, feeding rivers that flow into some of the most populated regions on Earth. From here begin the Brahmaputra, the Yangtze, the Mekong, and several other major rivers, supporting hundreds of millions of people across Asia. What happens in this remote region quietly shapes life far beyond its borders. The geography of Tibet is defined by extremes. Snow-covered mountain ranges rise alongside dry valleys, while vast grasslands stretch into the distance without interruption. The Himalayas form a natural barrier to the south, including Mount Everest on the border with Nepal, while the interior plateau remains cold, dry, and windswept. Rainfall is limited, as the mountains block much of the moisture coming from the Indian Ocean, creating a high-altitude desert in many areas. The climate here is not just cold, it is unpredictable. Winters are long and severe, with temperatures dropping far below freezing, while summers remain short and cool. Day and night can feel like two different worlds, with intense sunlight during the day and sharp cold after sunset. And yet, despite these conditions, life has found a way to exist here, adapting over thousands of years. Centuries ago, Tibet developed into a powerful kingdom. But what truly shaped it was not just rulers or expansion. It was belief. Tibetan Buddhism became central to life, blending with older traditions to create a worldview built around compassion, balance, and the understanding of life as a continuous cycle. Monasteries became centers of knowledge, where philosophy, medicine, and art were studied and preserved, shaping not just religion, but daily life. Over time, Tibet maintained connections with surrounding regions through trade and cultural exchange, yet it remained deeply distinct. Its geography protected it, and its beliefs gave it a strong internal identity. The rise of the Dalai Lama as both a spiritual and political leader added a unique structure to Tibetan society, one that lasted for generations, before modern changes reshaped the region. But beyond history, Tibet lives in its everyday rhythm. Walk through a town or village, and the first thing you notice is not what people are doing, but how they are doing it. There is no visible rush, no urgency that defines movement. Life unfolds steadily, almost quietly. In the early morning, before the day fully begins, you can see people walking slowly around sacred spaces, spinning prayer wheels, murmuring prayers that have been passed down for centuries. These are not grand gestures, they are small, repeated actions, performed daily. And yet, they carry a depth that is hard to explain. Even for someone visiting, it becomes impossible to ignore the calm that surrounds these moments. Travelers do come here, but Tibet is not a place driven by tourism in the usual sense. People do not come here for entertainment. They come for something less defined, something they often cannot fully explain until they experience it. Some walk through monasteries, listening to the deep, rhythmic chants of monks. while others simply sit in silence, absorbing the atmosphere. Then there is the land itself, which becomes part of the experience. Long roads cut through vast emptiness, leading across valleys, mountains, and open plains where the sense of scale feels overwhelming. You can travel for hours and feel as though you have barely moved, because the landscape stretches endlessly in every direction. Lakes like Yamdrok appear suddenly, their deep turquoise water reflecting the sky so clearly that the boundary between earth and sky begins to disappear. Further into the mountains, Mount Kailash stands isolated and sacred, respected across multiple religions. It is not climbed, but circled, a journey that takes days and challenges both the body and mind. For many, this journey is not about reaching a destination, but about experiencing something internal, something that shifts quietly along the way. Life in Tibet is built around adaptation. The harsh climate and high altitude limit agriculture, which is why barley became the foundation of the Tibetan diet. It's one of the few crops that can survive in these conditions. And from it comes tsampa, a simple yet essential food that provides energy and sustenance. Butter tea, made with yak butter and salt, offers warmth and calories in a land where both are necessary for survival. Yaks themselves are central to life here. They provide food, clothing, and transport, making them one of the most important animals in the region. Their ability to survive in thin air and extreme cold mirrors the resilience of the people who depend on them. Even fuel comes from necessity, with dried yak dung used for fire in areas where wood is scarce. But what stands out most is not just how people survive, but how they understand life. In Tibetan thought, existence is part of a continuous cycle. Death is not an end, but a transition. And suffering is not something to escape, but something to understand. This perspective creates a different relationship with life, one that values patience, awareness, and compassion in ways that feel deeply grounded. There are also remarkable biological adaptations among Tibetan people. Over generations, they have developed the ability to function at high altitude with greater efficiency, using oxygen more effectively than most others. This allows them to live and work comfortably in conditions that can be physically challenging for visitors. It is a reminder that human life can adapt in extraordinary ways when given enough time. The environment itself is changing. Glaciers across the plateau are melting at increasing rates due to climate change, affecting water sources that millions depend on. The fragile balance of this ecosystem is under pressure, and changes here have consequences far beyond the region. The Tibetan Plateau is not just remote land, it is a critical part of a much larger environmental system. Modern life continues to reach Tibet. Cities are growing, infrastructure is expanding, and technology is becoming more present in daily life. Younger generations are connected to the wider world, balancing modern influences with traditional values. You might see someone using a smartphone while walking past a centuries-old monastery, a small moment that captures the contrast of past and present. But despite these changes, something essential remains. Traditions continue. Rituals are practiced. Cultural identity persists, not as something fixed, but as something that adapts without disappearing. Tibet is not frozen in time. It is evolving while still holding on to its core. And maybe that is what makes it so unique. Because Tibet is not defined by one thing, not just its height, not just its history, not just its spirituality. It is defined by how all these elements exist together. A place where extremes create balance, where hardship creates resilience, and where silence carries meaning. In the end, Tibet is not something you fully understand while you are there. It is something you carry with you after you leave, in the way you begin to notice stillness, in the way you question speed, in the way you start to see life differently. Because in a world that is constantly moving, Tibet reminds you that there is another way to exist, a slower way, a quieter way, a more aware way. And maybe that is why people come here not just to explore a place, but to experience something within themselves, something that does not disappear when the journey ends. Because in Tibet, even silence feels full. And in that silence, there is something rare, something honest, something that stays with you long after you are gone, not as a memory of a place, but as a feeling you cannot quite explain. And if you felt something in this story, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for more journeys like this.